You think you know Odin, a wise old king, calm and benevolent, seated upon the golden throne of Asgard. A caring father who watches over the gods, the symbol of justice that modern media painted for you. But the surviving Norse sources paint a far darker picture. The medieval texts describe a far more complex god. To the ancient Norse, Odin was Hangatyr, the lord of the hanged. He was the god of kings and the god of the elite, but also a mysterious patron associated with berserkers, sorcery, and the dead. A master manipulator of battles who decided the fate of kings and claimed the fallen for his own hall. Because Odin did not look for simple reverence. He was preparing for the ultimate end of the world. And to gain the knowledge that might hold back Ragnarok itself, this god did the most unthinkable thing in all of mythology. He sacrificed himself to himself. Welcome to the dark truth about Odin, as it was written 1,000 years ago in the pages of the ancient Eddas. To understand Odin, you must first understand his obsession. In the Norse world, doom was woven into the fabric of creation. Ragnarok, the end of the gods, was a certainty, and no one knew this better than Odin. That is why he focused his divine will on collecting the finest warriors in the realms for the final battle on the plain of Vigrid. The warriors who fell in battle, chosen by the Valkyries and carried to Valhalla, were the Einherjar. The sagas reveal an unsettling trait. Odin was not a fair protector. He interfered in human wars, choosing who would win and who would fall. At times, he even sowed the seeds of downfall for his most beloved heroes. In the old sagas, Odin often walks the earth as a wanderer. An old man in a gray cloak, a wide hat pulled low over his missing eye, visiting kings to tip the scales of fate. For a warrior, dying of old age or sickness was the straw death, a quiet passing that led down to Helheim. While modern portrayals mistake Helheim for a place of shame, the ancient texts show it simply as the final resting place for the majority of the dead. But Valhalla was reserved exclusively for those who died by the edge of a blade. Odin sought those deaths. In Valhalla, the old texts tell us that every single day, the Einherjar wake up and slaughter each other in brutal combat, only to be resurrected at nightfall to feast and heal their wounds. This endless cycle of training was Odin's way of maintaining a standing army of battle-hardened fallen warriors, keeping their instincts sharp for the final war. This is why Odin was feared as much as he was revered. Every warrior knew that on the day he needed Odin most, the Allfather might shatter his blade in the middle of battle, simply because it was time for that king to join his ranks. That cruelty came from desperation, the desperation of a god who knew he was powerless against fate. The most sacred chapter of Odin's life is recorded in the Havamal, the words of the High One. It tells of his quest for the runes, the ancient symbols that hold the mysteries of the cosmos. To touch them, Odin had to pay a price that no other god would dare to pay. The Havamal records his own words. I know that I hung on a windswept tree for 9 long nights, wounded by a spear, given to Odin, myself, to myself. Consider what that means. Odin hanged himself from the branches of the world tree, Yggdrasil. He drove a spear through his own flesh. No food, no water, no comfort. 9 days and 9 nights, alone in the vast cosmic expanse. Modern scholars often interpret this ordeal as a profound shamanic ritual, a deliberate push to the very brink of existence to perceive secrets that lay beyond mortal or divine understanding. Imagine the agony of those 9 nights. The windswept ash tree Yggdrasil held the 9 realms within its structure. As Odin hung there, the freezing winds tore through his open wound. Without food to sustain his body, or water to soothe his parched throat, he endured the absolute isolation of death. He was the king of the gods, yet he reduced himself to a state of absolute vulnerability, offering himself as a sacrifice because there was no higher power worthy of receiving it. On the ninth night, as the darkness of death closed around him, Odin peered into the depths beneath him. The Havamal states simply, "I looked down, I took up the runes, screaming. I took them, and then I fell back from there." Through this ultimate suffering, he claimed the magic symbols. He survived, returning from the brink not just as a king, but as a master of cedar, a potent, shape-shifting magic of fate that the Norse would forever associate with his name. But the runes were not enough. Odin's search for knowledge led him next to the Well of Mimir, deep beneath the roots of the World Tree, where wisdom and foresight flowed. Mimir, the ancient guardian of the well, demanded a severe price for a single drink. Odin did not hesitate. He gouged out his own right eye and cast it into the deep water as a permanent pledge. Later in the sagas, during a war between the gods, the rival Vanir gods severed Mimir's head and sent it back to Asgard. Odin, unwilling to lose this fountain of wisdom, embalmed the head with herbs and spoke ancient charms over it, giving it a half-life. He kept the speaking head by his side, consulting it for counsel when dark times approached. From the day of his sacrifice at the well, Odin walked the worlds with only one eye. The eye left in the water remained a symbol of the price he paid. The drink from the well granted him terrifying foresight, but that wisdom came with a bitter weight. Absolute knowledge meant that Odin now knew the exact sequence of his own destruction. He knew his beloved son, Baldur, would fall. He knew the great wolf Fenrir would open its jaws at Ragnarok and consume him. Every piece of wisdom he gained only clarified the inevitable ruin of Asgard. Odin became the wisest being in the realms, and the most isolated. More than 1,000 years have passed since the last Viking called upon Odin, yet the memory of the one-eyed god lingered long in the north. If you travel along the dramatic fjords of the Norwegian coast today, you see the same dark mountains that the ancestors once looked upon. In regional Scandinavian folklore, the violent storms of winter were long associated with the movement of the gods. When the wind howled through the valleys, local traditions spoke of the Asgardsreia, the wild hunt. These stories whispered that on the darkest winter nights, Odin would ride at the head of a ghostly host, sweeping across the night sky. In the small wooden cabins deep in the valleys, old warnings advised people to stay indoors during these supernatural storms. In some regional tales, looking directly upon the wild hunt was said to bring misfortune or draw a person's spirit into the spectral march. It was a reminder to respect the unseen forces of the wild. The Allfather was no longer actively worshipped, but his myth remained tied to the cold fury of the northern winter. Odin paid the highest price any being could endure, all to buy time against the end of the world. And here is the profound tragedy of his myth. Many of the actions he took to avert Ragnarok inadvertently set the stage for it to happen. And the figure who would ultimately shatter the peace of Asgard was his own sworn blood brother, Loki. But who is Loki, really? A heartless villain? Or a complex figure driven to malice by the judgment of the gods? Subscribe and join us for the next tale. The truth about Loki, the one who was never the villain. And if you want to drift into sleep tonight with the old sagas in your ears, the Sleep Sagas playlist is waiting on your screen. Until then, I'll see you by the next fire. Loki was never the villain. The original Norse myths. Everything you know about Loki is wrong. The movies made him Thor's jealous brother, a villain with a horned crown, hungry for a throne. But the Vikings who first told his stories knew a very different being. In the original myths, Loki is not Thor's brother. He is Odin's. In an age before the ages, the Allfather and the trickster mixed their blood and swore an oath of brotherhood. Odin swore he would never accept a drink at a feast, unless a drink was poured for Loki too. And in most of the old tales, Loki is no villain at all. He is the problem solver of the gods, the one they turn to when everything falls apart, the one who gave them their greatest treasures. So, how does a god like that end up bound in a cave, with venom dripping onto his face, waiting for the end of the world? This is the real story of Loki, from the pages of the ancient Eddas. To understand Loki, start with what he gave the gods. It began with a cruel prank. Loki cut off the golden hair of Sif, the wife of Thor, and to escape Thor's rage, he swore to fix it. The way he fixed it changed the fate of the gods forever. He went down to the dwarves, the master smiths of the underground, and provoked a contest between two rival families of craftsmen who could forge the greater treasures. From that contest came new hair of living gold, a spear that never missed its mark. Gungnir, the weapon of Odin himself, a ship that could be folded like cloth and carried in a pocket, a boar with bristles of light, a golden ring that dripped to 8 new rings every 9th night. And one thing more, a hammer called Mjolnir, the greatest weapon the gods would ever hold. The hammer of Thor exists because of Loki's mischief. Remember that the next time someone calls him nothing but a villain. The pattern repeats through the old stories. When a mysterious builder offered to raise the walls of Asgard in a single winter, demanding the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freyja as his payment, it was Loki who found the way out. He transformed himself into a mare and lured away the builder's magical stallion, so the wall could not be finished in time. The price of that trick was personal. Loki became the mother, yes, the mother, of an 8-legged foal named Hindleipnir, the same 8-legged horse that Odin rides across the sky. The Allfather's steed is Loki's child. And when the goddess Idun was stolen by a giant, and without her apples of youth, the gods began to wither and grow old, it was Loki who flew into the land of the giants in borrowed falcon feathers and carried her home. The gods did not keep Loki around despite the trouble he caused. They kept him because no one else could undo trouble the way he could. But the old texts tell of another side of Loki's life. With a giantess of the ironwood Angerboda, he fathered 3 children: a wolf named Fenrir, a serpent named Jormungandr, and a half-dead daughter named Hel. When the gods heard the prophecies of the doom these children would bring, they did not wait. They hurled the serpent into the world ocean. They cast Hel down to rule the realm of the dead. And the wolf? They decided to chain. Fenrir had been raised among the gods, and only the brave god Tyr dared to feed him. When the gods tricked the wolf into being bound with an unbreakable magical ribbon, Fenrir suspected the trap and demanded that a god place a hand between his jaws as a pledge of good faith. Tyr did. The ribbon held, and Fenrir took Tyr's hand. Ask yourself, in that story, who betrayed whom? Even the old texts seem uneasy. They call the binding of the wolf necessary. They never call it honorable. Then came the event that broke everything. The death of Balder, the shining son of Odin. Balder was beloved by all creation, so his mother took oaths from fire and water, from iron and stone, from every beast and every plant, that none would ever harm him. All but one. A young sprig of mistletoe, thought too small to matter. The Prose Edda tells that Loki found that one forgotten weakness. He shaped the mistletoe into a dart and guided the hand of Baldur's blind brother as he threw it. Baldur fell dead, and the light went out of Asgard. The gods begged the Queen of the Dead to release him, and she agreed on one condition, that everything in the world would weep for Baldur, and everything did weep, except one old giantess sitting alone in a cave, who answered coldly, "Let hell keep what she holds." The texts hint that the giantess was Loki in disguise. It was the point of no return. Whatever Loki had been before, after Baldur, there was no way back. In a poem called the Lokasena, Loki crashes a feast of the gods and unleashes the truth. One by one, he turns to each god in the hall and drags their secrets into the light. Their affairs, their cowardice, their hypocrisy. It reads less like a villain gloating and more like a man burning every bridge he has left. He knows what is coming. He no longer cares. The vengeance of the gods was terrible. They hunted Loki down, and they dragged his family into it. One of his sons was turned into a wolf and made to tear out the throat of the other. With the entrails of his own dead child, the gods bound Loki across 3 stones in a cave. Above his face, they fixed a serpent, dripping burning venom, drop after drop, until the end of time. Only his wife, Sigyn, stayed. She stands beside him through the ages, holding a bowl to catch the venom. But when the bowl fills, she must turn away to empty it. And the venom strikes his face. The Old Norse said that when Loki writhes in his chains, the earth itself quakes. And there he waits. Because the prophecy says that when Ragnarok comes, Loki will break free. He will rise and steer a ship of the dead against Asgard, standing at the last battle, against the gods who were once his family. The fixer of Asgard will become its destroyer, and the gods have no one to blame but themselves. 1,000 years later, echoes of the trickster still flicker through Scandinavian folklore. In parts of Norway and Denmark, when the fire crackled and spat on the hearth, old sayings claimed the trickster was stirring. Folk traditions tied the dancing of flames and the shimmer of hot summer air to his restless spirit. And in some old Icelandic sources, the brightest star of the winter sky, Sirius, carried the name Lokabrenna, Loki's torch, burning far away in the dark. But here is the strangest part. Unlike Odin or Thor, Loki was never worshipped. No Viking wore a Loki amulet. No mountain, no fjord, no village in Norway bears his name. And maybe that is the final clue to who he really was. The Norse did not pray to Loki. They told stories about him, because every hall, every family, every age has one. The clever one, the dangerous one, the one who saves you in one season and ruins you in the next. Loki was never a god to kneel before. He was a mirror. Loki's chains will not hold forever. The prophecy of the Voluspa speaks of the signs, 3 winters with no summer between them, brothers killing brothers, the sun turning black in the sky. When those signs appear, Loki breaks free, and the end of all things begins. Next time, we follow the prophecy to its end, Ragnarok, Part 1, The Signs Before the End. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and if you want the old sagas to carry you into sleep tonight, the Sleep Sagas playlist is waiting on your screen. Until then, I'll see you by the next fire. Ragnarok, Part 1. The Signs Before the End. Every religion has its end of the world, but only the Norse gave their gods an ending. the might of the gods themselves could read in advance. Ragnarok was never a surprise attack. It is a prophecy, spoken to Odin by a dead woman, raised against her will from her grave. She told him everything: how the world will freeze, how his son will die first, how the wolf will devour him. Word for word, like a script that cannot be rewritten. The true horror of Ragnarok is not the destruction, it is the waiting. This is the story of the signs before the end, as the ancient Eddas tell it. It begins with nightmares. Baldur, the shining son of Odin, dreams of his own death. And so Odin saddles Sleipnir, his 8-legged horse, and rides down into the realm of the dead. There, near the eastern gate of Hel's realm, lies the grave of a Volva, a seeress, long dead. Odin chants the old magic over the mound and pulls her up from the earth. She is furious. "Snow fell on me," she says. "Rain beat on me. Dew soaked my bones. I have been dead a long time." But Odin forces the question, and the dead woman answers. In the Voluspa, the prophecy of the seeress, she unrolls the entire future before him. Every sign, every battle, every death, including his own. And Odin says nothing. He returns to Asgard, and he begins to prepare. Now, everything we have told you in the earlier tales falls into place. Why Odin harvests the souls of warriors into Valhalla. Why the gods chained the wolf and cast the serpent into the sea. Every cruel thing the gods have ever done was done in the shadow of this prophecy. The first domino has already fallen, the death of Baldur. When the brightest of the gods was laid upon his burning ship, the words of the seeress began to come true. Then comes the winter. Fimbul winter, the mighty winter. 3 winters in a row, with no summer between them. Snow drives in from every direction. The sun rises, but gives no warmth. Crops die, herds die. And then, people begin to turn on one another. The Voluspa describes it in some of the coldest lines in all of ancient poetry. Brothers will fight and kill each other. An axe age, a sword age, shields are split. A wind age, a wolf age, before the world falls. Notice what the prophecy is saying. The end of the world does not begin with monsters. It begins with the collapse of human decency. Then, the sky itself is hunted down. Since the dawn of time, 2 wolves have chased the sun and the moon across the heavens. In the final winter, the chase ends. Skoll catches the sun and swallows her. Hati catches the moon. The stars go out, one by one, until the sky is nothing but darkness. And in that darkness, 3 roosters crow. One in the forest of the giants, one over Valhalla, one deep in the halls of the dead. The world tree, Yggdrasil, shudders from root to crown, and everything that was ever bound begins to break. Deep beneath the earth, the venom drips one last time into Loki's face. The ground convulses, and the bonds that held him for an age snap. The trickster stands, and he smiles. Far away, the magic ribbon Gleipnir tears apart, and Fenrir the wolf is free. Grown so vast, scrapes the earth, and the upper one presses against the sky. In the deep ocean, Jormungandr, the world serpent, finally releases its own tail. It rises, and the seas surge over every shore. And riding that flood comes a ship. Naglfar, a ship built from the untrimmed fingernails of the dead. At its head stands Loki, steering the armies of the dead toward the gods who were once his family. On the walls of Asgard, Heimdall the Watchman sees them coming. He raises the Gjallarhorn to his lips and blows a blast that is heard in all 9 worlds at once. The gods wake. Odin rides one final time to the Well of Mimir and whispers with the ancient head that keeps all wisdom. And the Einherjar. Every warrior harvested into Valhalla across all the ages, pour out through its 540 doors and march to the plain called Vigrid. The army that Odin spent an eternity collecting finally learns what it was collected for. And here is where the myth may touch real history. In the year 536, a massive volcanic eruption veiled the sun across the northern world. The tree rings still show it. For several years, the summers simply failed. In Scandinavia, harvest after harvest died in the fields. And archaeologists estimate that in some regions, up to half the population perished. Many researchers now believe that the memory of those sunless, starving years survived in legend. As the Fimbul Winter, the Norse end of the world may be something their ancestors actually lived through. A winter that would not end, retold around fires for 300 years, until it froze into prophecy. And one small detail of the prophecy shaped daily life for centuries. Because the death ship Naglfar is built from the nails of the dead, old custom demanded that the dead be buried with their nails carefully trimmed, so as not to hand the enemy their shipbuilding timber. Even today, Norwegians still use the word Ragnarok for total chaos. The end of the world never quite left the language. The armies are gathered. The sun is gone. The horn has sounded through the worlds. Odin rides out at the head of the Einherjar, in a golden helmet, carrying the spear Gungnir, the same spear he once hung himself upon the world tree to master. He rides straight toward the open jaws of Fenrir. He has known exactly how this battle ends, since the dead woman told him. He rides anyway. Next time, Ragnarok, Part 2, the death of the gods. Who kills whom? Who survives? And the strange, quiet hope hiding at the very end of the Norse apocalypse. Subscribe. The end of the world is 1 week away. And if you want the old sagas to carry you into sleep tonight, the Sleep Saga's playlist is waiting on your screen. Until then, I'll see you by the next fire. Ragnarok Part 2, The Death of the Gods. You have been told that Ragnarok is the end of the world. That is only half of it. Ragnarok is the day the gods go to war knowing, every one of them, that they are going to lose. Odin has read the prophecy. He knows the wolf will swallow him. Thor knows the serpent's venom is waiting for him. And still, when the horn sounds, not one of them runs. They put on their war gear, and they march out to die on purpose. This is not a story about heroes who win. It is a story about gods who lose everything, and about the one strange green thing that grows out of the ashes when it is over. As the old Eddas tell it, this is how the gods die. The field of the last battle has a name, Vigrid. The Eddas even measure it, 100 leagues in every direction. A field big enough to hold the end of the world. From the burning south rides Surt, a giant of fire, older than the gods, with a sword that blazes brighter than the sun. Behind him come the sons of Muspel, a whole army of flame. And when they ride onto Bifrost, the rainbow bridge between heaven and earth, the bridge shatters beneath their weight. The way home is broken before the battle even begins. From the frozen east comes the ship of the dead, Naglfar, built from the nails of corpses. With the giant Hrym at the prow and the frost giants at his back. And at the helm, once again, stands Loki, steering the pale legions of Hel, the dishonored dead, turned at last against the gods who were once his family. And out from Asgard rides Odin, golden helmet, the spear Gungnir in his fist. Behind him, the Einherjar, every warrior he has gathered into Valhalla since the beginning of time. Thor at his side, Frey, Tyr, Heimdall, every god you have ever heard of, drawn up in a single line, facing an army that outnumbers them on a field 100 leagues wide. The waiting is over. This is what the waiting was for. Odin rides first, and he rides straight for the wolf. Fenrir, the son of Loki that the gods once chained with a ribbon, comes across the plain with his jaws gaping wide, the lower against the earth, the upper against the sky, fire in his eyes and his nostrils. There is no space left in the world that his mouth does not fill. The All-Father, master of magic and runes and every wisdom under the tree, the god who hung himself for 9 nights to learn the secrets of the dead, rides into that mouth, and the wolf swallows him. Odin is gone, the most powerful god in the north, devoured in a single moment, exactly as a dead woman told him he would be an age ago in the dark. And then a silent god steps forward. Vidar, Odin's son, the one who almost never speaks in any story, kept in reserve, it turns out, for exactly this. On one foot, he wears a shoe the Eddas say was made across all of time, from every strip of leather every person ever trimmed from their shoes and threw away. He plants that foot on the wolf's lower jaw. He grips the upper jaw with one hand, and he tears Fenrir apart. The wolf that ate a god is ripped in two by a god who never said a word. Odin is avenged. But Odin is not coming back. Across the field, Thor has found his oldest enemy, Jormungand, the world serpent, once so long it circled the whole earth and bit its own tail. Thor and the serpent have nearly killed each other twice before. Not this time. Thor swings Mjolnir, the hammer that has never missed, and crushes the great serpent's skull. And then he takes 9 steps, no more, through the flood of venom the dying serpent pours over him. And on the 9th step, the god of thunder, the shield of gods and men, falls down dead in the poison. The strongest of them all outlived his enemy by 9 paces. Nearby, Frey, the god of sunlight and harvest and every growing thing, stands against Surt and his sword of fire. But Frey, long ago, gave his own magic sword away for the love of a giantess. And now, on the one day he needs it most, his hand is empty. He fights the fire giant with an antler with his bare strength, and the flame takes him. Tyr, the god who once laid his own hand in the wolf's mouth so the others could chain it and lost it at the wrist, meets Garm, the monstrous hound of the dead. They tear into one another, and when it is over, both lie still. Tyr dies the way he lived, paying in his own flesh for everyone else. And in the middle of it all, 2 old enemies find each other. Heimdall, the watchman with the golden horn who saw the whole thing coming, and Loki, who steered the ship that brought it, the guardian and the traitor, the first to sound the alarm, and the last cause of it. They kill each other. Neither one walks away. One by one, the names go out. The pillars of heaven falling in the smoke. exactly on schedule. And then Surt ends the argument. The fire giant lifts his burning sword and flings flame across the whole of creation. Not one kingdom. All of them. 9 worlds catch fire at once. Yggdrasil, the world tree that held every realm in its branches, the tree Odin hung from, the ash that stood before anything else existed, groans and burns from root to crown. The Völuspá says it in words that have not lost their cold in 1,000 years. The sun turns black. The land sinks into the sea. The bright stars fall from the sky. Fire leaps and licks against heaven itself. The ocean rises and swallows the shore. The mountains come down. And the earth, everything anyone ever stood on or fought for or loved, slides under the black water and is gone. Silence. No gods, no giants, no sun, no world. This is the end the gods marched toward with their eyes open. This is Ragnarok. But the Norse apocalypse does something no other end of the world dares to do. It does not stop there. The seeress keeps speaking, past the fire, past the drowning. And she says, I see the earth a second time rise green out of the water. The waterfalls fall again. An eagle flies over the mountains, hunting fish. The world comes back. And it is not empty. A few gods walked out the far side of the end. Vidar, who tore the wolf apart. Vali, another son of Odin. And Modi and Magni, the sons of Thor, who lift their father's hammer out of the ashes and carry it into the new world. And up out of the realm of the dead comes the one death that started all of this. Baldur, the shining god, murdered before the end even began, walks back into the sunlight. Him and the blind brother who was tricked into killing him. In the new world, they sit down together, in peace. The survivors gather in the green grass of a field called Idavol, the very ground where Asgard once stood. And there, in the grass, they find something. The golden game pieces the old gods used to play with before the world ended. They pick them up, and they remember. And there were people too. Deep inside a wood, a man and a woman had hidden while the world burned. Lif and Lifthrasir. Life and striving for life. They lived on nothing but the morning dew. And when the fire was out and the flood was gone, they walked out into a clean, green, empty world. And from those two, the Eddas say, all the new peoples of the earth are descended. Even the sun had borne a daughter before the wolf caught her. And that daughter now rides her mother's road across a new sky. The Norse are the only ones who looked their own apocalypse dead in the face and still put a sunrise at the end of it. So why would a people tell a story like this? A story where their own gods lose? Because it was never a story about winning. It was a story about how to lose. The Vikings lived in a hard world, famine, feud, a sea that took men and did not give them back. And they built a faith for people who knew the odds and knew the ending and decided that the only thing that truly matters is how you meet it. Odin rides into the wolf's mouth, not because he can win. He rides in because running was never one of the choices. Courage, to the Norse, was not the belief that you would survive. It was doing the right thing when you knew that you would not. And that idea did not die with the old gods. When Christianity came to Norway, it did not erase Ragnarok. It absorbed it. The green world after the fire, the shining hall the Völuspá calls Gimla, where the good will live, quietly slid into the shape of a new heaven. And to this day, a Norwegian watching everything fall apart around them reaches for one word, older than their church, older than their kings, Ragnarok. Total chaos, the end of the world, it never left the language. Because on some level, it never quite stopped feeling true. And that is where we leave the gods. Next time, we climb down out of the myth and meet the men who believed it. How Vikings actually fought, not the gods, the real raiders, the shield wall, the axe, the terror they carried onto the coasts of Europe, and the truth behind the legend of the berserker. The gods have died, the world is green again, and the story, like the world, begins over. Subscribe and ride with us into the next one. And if you would rather let the old sagas carry you down into sleep tonight, the Sleep Sagas playlist is waiting on your screen. Until then, I'll see you by the next fire.